Meeting to order. We have a quorum, so we need to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Fontana, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Agenda approval. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda, or is there anything that needs to be changed?
Mr. Chair, there was one item in the consent agenda. If we could just pull it out for information prior to us voting on it. It is the Trans Math and VMath intervention curriculum purchase,
All right.
just to find out what that's about.
Okay, should we move it to action maybe, or?
Yes, sir, it'd have to go to action.
Yeah, that's what
It's a contract.
okay. All right.
Board, do you care to make it 15A?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so we will pull out number 9 from the consent agenda and make it number 15A under action. So does someone want to make let's see, we need to make a motion to amend the agenda and then approve the amended agenda. Is that right?
Correct.
Correct. All right.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we approve the amended agenda.
Okay, Mr. George has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns has seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that's unanimous. Thank you. All right, recognitions. C.F. Pope Elementary School donation. Is that,
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, CF Pope Alumni Association President Arnold Moore is here tonight. He's joined by other CF Pope alumni to make a special presentation this evening, and I'll invite them up.
Good afternoon. We are the CF Polk alumni, myself, President, the Vice President, Richard Newkirk, the founder, one of the founders, Miss Mary Jordan, along with Miss Valdorsa Williams, that was the co-chairman of the alumni. She got together with Miss Jordan and Miss James, and they formed the CF Polk Alumni, and it's been going on strong ever since 1985. And to address you all, the purpose of being here, Miss Valdorsa Williams' son, Sam Art Williams, has always, at least once a year, donate to the cause of CF Polk. But he now is doing in his honor of his mother, Miss Valdorsa Williams. And she was a big leader, great leader in the school. And she was the type of person that thought ahead, and she passed it on to her students. And she was a very good teacher, and then I think she moved right on to Pender High, where she's well recognized there with some of the students. Because I may put her picture on Facebook, but it lights up because everybody knew her, everything. But Sam Art Williams, this time, when the school was changed back to CF Polk, he said that he wanted to do something big again. So he donated the $20,000 to the CF Polk Elementary School. And it's just the goodness of his heart. And we just so proud that he did it in the name of CF Polk alumni. And and we know it's going to be well spent for the education of the students, you know, and that's about it. Unless, could I have one, just let Mary just say one or two words? Because she is the founder.
She talks too much.
I was about to say, one or two words, good luck with that, but we'll go with it.
We're glad to get a chance to meet, greet, and see all of you. And this comes from the very heart and soul of us. When we read the paper the other day and came up and we saw C.F. Pope even at elementary, it tugged at our heart because that's who we are. And we're so glad that we have kept it alive. So we know you're going to be very productive in the spending of what you do and raise up some folk who could come behind us to be stewards as well. We love you, we appreciate you, and we know you do well with our children. Thank you much.
Let's do, yeah, if we can, we can do some on the lower level and some on the upper level, stack things up a little bit. All right, everybody, 1, 2, 3. Wow.
Years ago, here he is, 90 years old, because I was his teacher. I did. Thank you, Brad. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you.
All right, Alex, any public comments?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right. None, okay. All right, Dr. Hill, COVID-19 and school operations.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. We have Ms. Steele on the phone as the representative from the Health Department to talk a little bit about the numbers tonight. As you know, with every board meeting, we just try to give you a quick update. So, Ms. Steele, are you on the phone?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We've got the Pender County COVID-19 numbers as of 11:10 on the screen. So you mind taking the board through those numbers?
I'll be glad to. And let me say congratulations to Chairman Hall and Mr. George on their reelection. And I don't think there was anybody else that was up for reelection. I just saw your signs around town and saw that you guys were reelected. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Just a brief overview of North Carolina as of today has roughly 297,000 cases, 1,230 are hospitalized, about 4,600 deaths. The county, as of today, we had 1,555 cases, 1,216 have recovered. We currently have 3 hospitalized, 17 deaths. Our test positivity rate, which had been terribly high and had caused us last week to be in the White House Task Force report because our number of offenders at Pender Correctional had just spiked our test numbers and our positivity rate. So thank goodness we're off of that, and we have come down from 10.5 down to 6.2 today. The state is at 7.5. Looking at the last 14 days, based on the report that I get, we have had roughly 100 and 23 new cases in the last 14 days, and that's minus the inmate cases. If you'll look at our report, well, before I go to that, I was just going to share some numbers also with the surrounding counties. Duplin is at 2,900. Columbus is roughly 1,900. Onslow is at 3,950. Brunswick is at 2,400, and New Hanover is at 5,800. So, and there again, our numbers are at 1,555. If you're looking at that report, we changed our age ranges starting, I think it's as of today, and I'm not sure that the 0 to 10 age and 11 to 17, we've got the same amount of cases there. So I've got my health educator looking into that because I want to make sure those numbers are right. But we changed those age groups so it could be more specific as far as looking at the data. 0 to 10 years old, hopefully being where the cutoff is for the elementary school, and then 11 to 17 being middle school and high schoolers. I don't know how many of you heard today, but Governor Cooper did announce that the North Carolina indoor mass gathering limit will be lowered to 10 effective this Friday through December the 4th. And I'm sure that's probably to help curtail the social gatherings for Thanksgiving, which will probably spike our cases somewhat. Hopefully not terribly bad. And does anybody have any questions? Okay. Thank you.
And following kind of that trend is, this is the trend right now for positive cases. And you see the trend line actually very nicely leveling out, which is good. So we hope to maintain that, and that's within the school district. So it's pretty simple data, but that's just positive tests within the school district. The next one is our dashboard, which is just our totals to date, which you have that in your packet. And then the next one is the second semester information. The survey we sent out basically trying to figure out whether parents were feeling like they were going to come to school or try virtual next semester. And Dr. Bloomerwright and Dr. Aiken can talk to this specifically about this research.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We wanted to try to follow a process similar to the approach that was taken for our elementary students. So this was the first step, similar to how we first sent out an initial interest survey to our elementary parents. This was similar, sent to our 6th through 12th grade. Same purpose, just asking parents that based on where things are now, what would be their thoughts for second semester. So it was a one question intent form. This is not asking parents to commit. It was just designed to give our schools some information, especially related to starting to try to plan for master scheduling, especially at the high school, but to some degree also at the middle school. And as you can see, it's very nearly a 50-50 split at this point. We are still trying to call, email any and every other online student that we have not heard from at this time. I think that's roughly 70 and change percent that we've heard from to this point. So we're trying to get up with every parent if we can, like we did last time. But we would like to use this to try to start figuring out what semester 2 would look like. And then similar to what we did with elementary, be able to, again, come back to the board with proposals and some ideas, and then make sure that we have plenty of time for our parents to be able to commit, make a decision where they feel comfortable committing for the second semester.
Do you think that'll be at the You think that'll be at the December meeting or before?
Before, both. We would like to be able to have something well before then, both for you, for the schools, and especially for our parents.
The next slide, sir, is this is in your packet. We just wanted to put a holder slide up there to make sure if you had any questions. We are 2 days into the Plan A implementation, and it's been running pretty smooth. Transportation has done a good job working with our principals. Our administrators and our school administrators are just phenomenal at trying to make this work no matter what. And it's shown the last 2 days it's been really about as smooth as you could make a transition. So they've done some wonderful work. Any questions about those documents that were in your packet?
Actually, Dr. Hill, I do have a question about transportation. When do we foresee getting, Here Comes the Bus back and operational? And I know this is kind of slipping off the COVID rails a little bit, but I figured while we're talking transportation, I've had a parent, send me an email recently asking, why aren't we able to use that? So
We've changed the routes quite. I mean, we're living 2 weeks at a time is what we kind of say to each other. But Mr. Smith, do you have any response to that?
Because we're working in.
Go ahead and talk about it. Actually, I'll tell you what. Here you go.
We're working in different data sets because the Monday, Tuesday data set does not match Thursday, Friday because the middle school cohort, we still have the middle school cohorts. Here Comes the Bus imports data every 24 hours from one data set. So with the high school on a full week and then off, that's 3 different data sets that would have to be imported, and we can only do one. So the data would not be accurate that's sent out to the public, if that makes sense. What I'm saying is the elementary and middle school routing is in one data set, but it's between 2 data sets. There's 2 different data sets for the K-8 routes, and then there's 2 different data sets for the 9-12 routes. We can't have those all going into the system at the same time. It can only pull from one data set at the time. So the K-8s would work, but then the 9-12 wouldn't. The high school families wouldn't have opportunities to use it. That's why we're not using it right now.
Okay, I thought it was good to ask the question,
Yeah,
though, because I saw you sitting out there. And
I would love to have it back because it reduces a lot of our questions. It does. So we're not using it because we don't want to. It's because we're working in so many different data, and then our EC's in a totally different data set. And so then the EC,
Oh, it wasn't because I didn't think you didn't want to. Because I know it makes everything a lot easier with parents knowing when their child's bus is coming. But I just saw you out there, and I thought, you know what? Of everybody, I know he will give us the best explanation because, well.
I mean, as soon as we're able to work in one data set, and
right.
And that's the question they gave us. We would be pulling multiple data, and it would work for half the parents, but then half the parents would be getting inaccurate data in the mornings.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So it's just one of the
thank you,
negative
Mr. Smith.
effects of COVID right now.
Yeah,
So,
right. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any more for? All right, Mr. LaFawn. Who you got?
Pull everything back up, turn off the phone, set this back.
Okay.
Good evening, board members. It's nice to bring something to you that's kind of normal business. We are letting you know that we're going to purchase a dual axle truck for a plumber's truck. The current truck is over 300,000 miles, and it's time for it to be replaced. It has become fairly unreliable. I am going to keep it though and repurpose it so that transportation department can have a tire truck, as it doesn't have to go very far in that purpose. So it's just information for you to have to know that that's what's going on.
All right, thank you. Budget report, Ms. Chestnut. And you also have the next item, fuel and electric cost.
This is our typical budget report. I don't know if you have any questions about it, I'll be glad to answer them. Things are going along pretty well. And then the next, of course, is the fuel and electric cost, and as we've been talking about, it's really hard for them to compare to anything, because our last 2 years have been so crazy, but in order to keep you informed of what's going on, I'd like for you to be able to see it. Have any questions about that? All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, the consent agenda minus item 9. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve that?
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve the consent agenda, minus item 9.
All right, Mr. George has made a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Ms. Fontana has made a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. All right, under action agenda, item 12. Mr. LaFawn, you have the next 3 here.
Mr. Chair, I believe there is a typo on the agenda. Item 12 was removed earlier this week.
Okay. Well, this copy says item 12, but about an easement, is that what you have?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I believe Mr. LaFawn removed that earlier this week.
Okay.
Yeah. They're still in negotiation, sir.
Okay. So to make sure I'm correct here, on my paper, the next item is sidewalks. Is that right?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right, well, Mr. LaFawn, that's yours, and so is item 14. Sidewalks at Surf City Middle School and Penderley Athletic Fields.
Yes, board members, the next phase for the athletic fields at the Surf City and Penderley Middle Schools are going to get started. Part of that is putting in sidewalks. In the packet, there were 3 bids. M2 Services provided the low bid for the sidewalks, and I asked that the board approve $43,850 to install the sidewalks for M2 Services at the Surf City and Penderley Athletic Fields.
All right.
Mr. LaFont, those fields don't look very good. Is that, what's the deal, what's going on there? Did they not roll the sod in, or?
The fields are not done yet. We have not paid them yet. But I'd like to get the other amenities started.
Well, I mean, that was a June deadline.
Yes,
What
sir.
happened?
They have just been behind schedule for various reasons that they just haven't gotten done. You know, I speak with the contractor on a weekly basis, and a lot of it has been going out there and inspecting and telling them that we are not satisfied and getting them to finish off. Mr. George, I don't know any other thing to tell you except that they just haven't gotten it done yet.
Mr. Attorney, can we talk about that in closed session, or is that something we need to talk about now? What our next steps are?
We could talk about that in closed session, Mr. George.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Was the sidewalks in the original
No,
scope?
sir. This is something additional.
Additional?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion then to approve the presentation by Mr. LaFawn on the sidewalks at Surf City Middle School and Penderley Athletic Fields.
All right, Mr. Smith's made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns has made a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you. And Mr. LaFawn again, custodial contract.
Board, as you're aware, the custodial contract is up for renewal. Last week you asked for to get a contract with American Facility Services. That contract has been reviewed, has been put in place and reviewed by the legal department. AFS has reviewed the contract and has agreed to it in principle, and we're just waiting for signage. Mr. George, you asked a question about current AB employees and their benefits not stopping. That is a provision in the contract and has been agreed to by American Facility Services.
Yeah, I seen that. That was nice. Number 3, I think it was on the.
That's correct, it's number 3. So I would ask the board to allow me to go ahead and have this contract approved and get it put in place.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we approve the contract for AFS custodial.
All right, Mr. George has made a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Ms. Fontana has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. LaFawn. And Dr. Moore, you have revisions to Pender County Schools Beginning Teacher Support Program Plan.
Good evening again to all of you. The most significant change, of course, on the first page, the year 2018 was included based on program guidelines, but the most significant change occurs on the second page under plan for implementing a sound BT induction process. That last section has been added based on changes with general statute, which states that during or prior to the conclusion of the beginning teacher's first year of teaching, the beginning teacher is required to complete a recent graduate survey, and the principal of the school is required to complete an employer survey as part of the requirements to measure performance of the educator prep program. So pretty much, principals and beginning teachers will be required to complete the survey to provide adequate feedback on how well the educator prep programs are implemented at the college level. And in the past, we've randomly received some, or principals are say, well, I got this, do I have to complete it? But now it's a part of general statute that as they receive them, they are going to be required to complete those surveys. And then, unfortunately, your packets were not numbered, so there are a few other changes that are noted, probably about 5 pages over under the professional development plan. States that monitored growth plans and directed plans must be implemented when necessitated by ratings. So as teacher evaluations are completed for the beginning teachers, any ratings that are listed as developing on that summary eval, that will necessitate them either going on a monitored or directed plan for that upcoming school year. And then over on that next page, for beginning teacher 1s and 2s, at least 2 observations must be conducted in the first semester of the school year, and if practical, at least one of those observations shall be within the first grading period. So before, it's been the case that principals have set up a matrix for either them or for their AP to conduct the observations on the beginning teachers, as is with all their other teachers in the building. Now they're saying that at least 2 have to be conducted within that first semester, and 1 has to be done by administration and so forth. So they're now spelling it out.
So how are these, I just have to ask,
Sure.
How are we doing evaluations when we have virtual and we have some teachers having to do virtual at home? I mean,
so
nothing changed.
This
Still
past-
same number of evaluations and everything.
This past school year, because things abruptly came to a halt in mid-March, out of that came several things. Not only was it revealed that some beginning teachers had not even had a first observation, and as of March, who had been here since August, and this is statewide, so that leads to some of this information. What they were also looking at is what's truly observable based on the virtual, based on the class face-to-face instruction. So those are things that they're focusing on now, but it is still expected that our beginning teachers, as well as all of our teachers, are still expected to have a certain number of observations. But the way last school year ended is that attorneys throughout the state, school board attorneys, looked at some of the drafted summary evals that DPI had put in place. So people pretty much received a summary based on efforts from last school year. So they did not, any information that had not been entered in the online evaluation system by March 13th was not entered. The professional development plans were completed as best as possible, but no new information could be entered for March. So that was, again, some of the revelation and noticing that some evals had not even, observations had not even taken place. So hence, it's locking us in.
So let's say we have a situation where we have someone, and we have several instances, where they're teaching, but they're having to do it at home because of immune compromised or health conditions or whatever. So what does the principal do for that observation? Do they hop on virtually and then
Yes.
just observe?
Yes.
And they do it? I see Brandon's already shaking. So that's typically what we're doing throughout the state? Would you say, Brandon?
That's the direction that DPI is given to all school districts and all HR directors is the method. If there's a translation, I think is probably the best way to explain it, of how to do the teacher evaluation rubric for virtual learning. So they haven't actually changed the rubric at all.
Right.
All they've done is said, here's how you apply the rubric to a virtual learning environment.
The observables.
Exactly. And it's essentially square peg, round hole, but they're doing the best they can presumptively because, you know, as we found out in the spring, there's nothing you could really do affirmatively of an employee just not doing their job. After school district shut down, it was sort of a nice tying of hands for HR directors. And like I said, unless you absolutely didn't show up and didn't do your job, the evaluation of an employee was very difficult in the spring because there was no measuring stick. You had the evaluation instrument, but it wasn't calibrated or intended to be used online. So
I was just curious how we were doing that in the fall, this first semester, how we were doing those observations, and very interesting. Thank you.
Sure. And so with your approval tonight, Board Chair, I will need your signature on the last page of the document.
All right. Any more questions for Dr. Moore?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the revisions to the Pender County Schools Beginner Teacher Support Program as presented by Dr. Moore.
All right, Mr. Smith has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, Ms. Fontana has made a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. And on item 15A that we pulled from the information agenda, Dr. Aiken.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the request was to be able to utilize textbook funds, which I actually see is not on the cover sheet, so I did want to make sure I said that, but utilize transfers out of our textbooks funds to be able to purchase what would essentially allow us to be a second grade through around 9th or 10th grade structured math intervention program that would target our sustained support classrooms, so our students that may go to math for some instruction, or they may be pulled out for instruction, but they're typically anywhere from a year to 2 years behind in math. This provides our teachers with a structured program to try to help them catch up in our math classes. We have talked about trying to do some of this, blend some of this into our 8th and 9th grade math classes where we still see a need to try to help students, especially in the area of algebra or pre-algebra. But that's the basic request. It is essentially a textbook adoption, even though it's not a textbook. So we have prepared a request to transfer out of our textbook funds. It's primarily intended for in-person learning. It does have some options for remote, but our goal is to someday have all our students back in class and target it through that way. So just a little bit of background and then any questions that I can answer.
I think that's basically what most of us were looking for. The Edmentum thing's got us a little gun shy on just
I completely
approving
understand.
Yes.
programs, so
This
we'd
is,
like to know what.
this would be more like teacher directed,
remedial.
teacher using the program. Old days, it might have actually been a textbook, but as we try to get away from textbooks, but this is for our in-person classroom teachers. This is not intended to be an online program at all.
Okay.
And
Right.
this is for the sustained support classrooms?
It is primarily for our sustained support
Okay.
classrooms. However, we have seen and talked to places where it's been successful in, say, math foundations. In some cases, classrooms where we used to break Math 1 into Math 1A, Math 1B, where you make it a year-long course. And it's typically students who are anywhere from a half a year to a year behind. And so Ms. Martina and Dr. Lee have already had some conversations that it may actually be useful in a number of different places. But it's specifically targeting our sustained support students.
So this was probably what some of the EC teachers out there they're very excited about this. There's something new out there that's coming. Hopefully, they said, and they are very excited
We've
about
actually
this.
really looking at both.
Okay.
ELA, reading is one. One of the first things that Ms. Martina, and kind of doing her tours of the various schools, we heard from our sustained support teachers that really they did not have an alternative instructional model.
Absolutely true.
So they were often trying to figure out how to meet the state requirement that we're supposed to provide at grade level instruction while also recognizing that our students are not at grade level. So how do you help teachers be able to do that in an efficient way and let their brains focus on something else? And we previously came to look at getting reading up and going, and this is sort of our math next steps as well. So I hope that is what it is. We've already outlined professional development plan that it will take a couple years for us to really get it up and running in every single classroom, but we've already started talking to teachers about a PD implementation plan, and along with our principals as well. Of course, that's another thing that COVID has made somewhat challenging.
All right, good.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we approve the purchase of 15A, because I can't find it, Trans Math and VMath Intervention Curriculum Purchase.
All right, Mr. George made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns is second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, unanimous. Thank you. All right. Comments from board members. Ms. Burns, we'll start with you.
I'll keep this very short tonight, as always. Thank you very much to all of the staff and administration, to all of our schools. You're doing a fantastic job, and we thank you for that. And let's see, we will have a holiday pass before we all gather again, so have a happy Thanksgiving.
All right. Mr. George.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I'd like to say thank you to all the staff, teachers, everybody behind the scenes, in front of the scenes that's made this Plan A transition this week. I know it was tough on everybody getting there. There's been a lot of positive comments out there that I have not seen any negative, which is surprising so far, which is nice. So thank y'all for all the hard work. It was a lot. Dr. B, what percentage did we have come back? When I was tracking it, it looked like around 82% when we stopped inputting the numbers into the dashboard. Do you know how many actually came back? 82%?
So we've not been able to get that information, but I can get that and get it to you as soon as possible. We don't have a complete picture yet.
So it looks like the majority of our students are back in the building, though. That's good.
6% said that they were going to be coming back, so I just want to see where we get to that metric.
Gotcha. And also thank you for having the agenda out on Tuesday. That was nice. And to have the
Absolutely.
package out Thursday. That
Thank
was
you so
a big
much.
change. And so I'm going to build on that now. And so I was on the North Carolina School Board, whatever it was called this week. And it's usually in Greensboro. And they had the conference. And they had a presentation from a group called Simile that does board agendas, and they outlined how their agendas work. The only problem I have with our agenda is in the meeting is when everything is, we have to scroll. And this program kind of lays it out to where all I have to do is click the link and it takes me to that, and then I close that and go to the next item on the agenda. I'm not sure what the cost is. If we could investigate and see what, I think there's 6 different modules to the thing, from everything from superintendent evaluation to other evaluations, all feed into this one program. It's Georgia School Board Association member is the ones that designed it, and I guess it's used all over the country. Brandon may have some experience with it with some of his other districts. It looks really friendly. I mean, even for the public, it offers an option on there where when you post the agenda, you can click a box and you can take so many public inputs on that agenda item straight in the box. So if we could look at that, I thought that was great, but thank you for what you've done so far. That was nice to be able to review it, start reviewing it on Thursday and get that out of the way. Alex, thank you for the video of the Berkey family. That was a nice change of pace. And we even made the front page of the Star News for something good. So thank you, Alex. That was a great addition. And one last thing, tomorrow's Veterans Day. To all my fellow veterans, thank you for your service and what you've done and what you continue to do for our country. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Fontana.
Just to tag on what Mr. George just said, thank you to all of you who made this work. I know it was not the easiest thing. I know there were a lot of hiccups. I'm sure some people were very upset with some of us. However, it worked, and you made it work. And when I went through car pickup, past 2 days now, teachers have not thrown anything at me. They have actually given me thumbs up and smiles and said it worked. So there were a couple little hiccups here with lunch or a couple little hiccups here with this or that, but nothing major. My kids are happy. My middle schooler's a little upset that she can't be back in school 4 days a week right now, but she's getting over it, slowly but surely. But thank you to all of you who really made this happen. Also, something Mr. George said, Alex, thank you again for what you did for the Berkeys. I know that family personally. It's a great family. It was a really nice thing to see out there. And to see a former student from kindergarten, he's all grown up now, and to be on the front of the Star News like that just was the icing on the cake. Finally, I would like to say to a lot of families who I know are listening right now, especially my Burgaw families, just hug those kids tighter. Do what you can in this community. I don't know what's going on out there, but we have lost 2 former students this past weekend in a tragic, violent act. We're still finding out bits and pieces, but this just reiterates that teachers, don't ever forget what you do. Principals, don't ever forget what you do, because you do make an impact in these kids' lives. And I'm sure that if they had it all over to do again, that they would probably be reaching out to some of you. The teachers who I worked with at Burgaw and all across the county who have reached out to me and said, gosh, Cindy, what could we have done differently? I don't know. I don't know what happened, what didn't happen. I just know that 2 really great students that I had the pleasure of working with years ago, and one of them is a mother-to-be. They're now gone, and there are lots of families in turmoil out there. So hug your children a little tighter, and let's just make sure that we're doing everything as we can as a community, because it's up to all of us. It takes a village to raise our kids, y'all. Don't forget that. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Smith.
I have nothing.
All right. And Dr. Hill.
Yes, sir. I had the pleasure tonight to introduce you to our newest elementary director, Ms. Dee Owens. We've asked her to come tonight, Ms. Owens, and kind of introduce herself to the board and maybe get to see this face, so you'll be seeing her a lot in board meetings in the near future, we hope.
Good evening, board members. It has been a wonderful, wonderful start to Pender County Schools. I have been met with very, very gracious people, a lot of welcoming people and a lot of support. So it has been wonderful. I have had the opportunity to tour the 9 elementary schools and meet the principals, and went there last week. So a lot of our discussion was, are you prepared for this week? And a lot of thoughtful conversation, and a lot of planning went into it, and they were ready. So thank you for this opportunity. I look forward to working with you all in this whole system and the communities. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Come on. That it? Okay. We have a motion to go into closed session.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that the Pender County Board of Education enter a closed session subject to advice from the attorney pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A1, and A6 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel information under General Statute 115C, 319, and to consider matters relating to the initial employment of individual employees. The board will also go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143, 318, 11A3 to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege. Also to consider confidential student matters provided in the North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A1 and the Family Educational Right and Privacy Act of 20 U.S.C. 123G and NC General Statute 115C 402.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 And unanimous. Thank you. All right, we are back in open session. Do we have a motion to approve the HR report?
Make a motion to approve the HR report as presented.
Mr. Smith has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that's unanimous. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. We adjourn.
All right, Ms. Burns made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Fontana's made a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous.